Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Monday, September 24th, 2018. And as promised, we got around to finishing up the video for the auction, the auctions that took place in New York during Asia Week in September at Sotheby's and Christie's. They had some very good results. They had some disappointments. It's the way it goes. Always has been, always will be. And we're going to take a look right now, and we're going to start first by pointing out something. If you want to see the catalogs, you can, of course, come over to the website. On the homepage is a link to this, and you can come in, and the upcoming sales in Hong Kong are there, which we did last week, and the past sales and so forth. There's about 400 catalogs on there right now. One of the things I wanted to mention before getting started, for those of you that haven't never bought at Sotheby's or Christie's, they have gotten into doing online-only sales, these timed auctions that they run. This was the one that Sotheby's had, and it was called Saturday at Sotheby's, and the sale was on Saturday, the 15th of September, at the tail end of Asia Week. And in these sales, they put great, authentic things that are not necessarily going to break the bank. Okay, most of the things sell for under $15,000. A lot of them sell for well under $5,000. And there's all kinds of terrific examples, like the ones you're seeing here. There was a great, one of my favorite things in the sale was this, there's a Kangxi, I like the monochromes, but this Kangxi incense burner right here. This was a big one. It was a big Qing censer, Kangxi period, but very well painted. And I don't think the price was crazy at all. $5,000 all in, including the buyer's premium. That's certainly within range of what you'd expect to see for one of these on eBay anyway. That's what they bring. All right, but the buys like that can be had on here, and I think there's some opportunities to buy and resell on here as well. Okay, I think there's some money left on the table with some of these items if you're a dealer. Okay, and they do post-sale things if they don't sell. They didn't have many buy-ins though. All right, and we're going to get over to this. Start right away with the Christie sale of fine Chinese ceramics and works of art. This was the catalog that had all the bronzes in it, and it had obviously the pair of Tang statues, 25-inch statues on the cover. Just beautiful examples. But before we get started, we're going to hop over and take a look at this. This was the Fang Yi late Shang dynasty example. It's a wine vessel. These are not big. The photographs always make these things look much bigger than they are. This thing was about 9 inches tall. These are extremely rare. There's only 3, 4 of them, maybe 5 in the world. This is very similar to the one that's in the Sackler collection, and it came out of another American collection. And had very good provenance, good ownership history. It had been bought at Sotheby's some 25, 30 years ago. But here it is. And it ended up selling for $972,500, right sort of smack in the center of its estimate. Well done. Nice piece. All right, and then on to this. This was the piece from the Sackler Foundation sold this. A wonderful ritual food vessel done in the shape. We think of them as being incense burners, but it's really a food vessel. Western Zhao dynasty, and not terribly big. It looks big, like they always do. This was about 7 inches in diameter. But this had it was signed, inscribed, but it had just the most amazing surface on it. Just a great surface all the way down. We spent some time talking about it prior to the sale. I loved it. It was estimated quite reasonably, $250,000 to $350,000, and it did quite a bit better than that. It brought just a little under $500,000. It went about $140,000 over its high estimate to $492,000. But what a great looking thing! Just a great. This was these early pieces in the sale got a very good reception, and there was a lot of them. Okay, and then on to this was the first of the two limestone Tang statues. Okay, this one was 25 inches tall, estimated at $1.5 to $2.5 million, as is the other one. And it did just fine. There's lots of good photographs of this piece. If you want to learn more about them, you can come over and study them in the catalog. It ended up selling for $3.2 million, $3,252,000 to be exact. Okay, And for some reason, they broke this pair up, and I really don't understand why. I think it might discourage the bidders on the second piece. And here it is. It is the mate to it. Just another great example, equally as good as the first. And it ended up selling for $1.9 million, $1,992,000. So looking at the pricing, you have to assume that the second piece lost a little interest once the trick was to secure the first piece, and then the second piece would very likely be a better buy. For the seller, I would have, if I were the seller, I would have said put them up together. Don't split them up. All right. Do not split them up. All right. But they did, and in the end, they did fine, I guess. But I think it was a bit of a gamble. Okay. And now on to this. People are always putting pairs together, not breaking them up. Anyway, you have this. This was another piece from the Sackler collection. This was one of my favorites because I love the facial expression of this. Arhat. This is Cassiara. Beautifully done. 68 inches tall. This is a big statue. All right. Liao to early Sung Dynasty, and it was estimated at $300,000 to $500,000. And it did fine. It ended up selling for $324,000, sort of at the lower end of its estimate. But I think this was just fabulous. I just, as an object, could you imagine that in your living room with a nice little halogen light over it in a dark corner? It would be absolutely, it would be like having a roommate. All right. And now we're going to slip over to here. This is the last thing we'll talk about in the sale. The ceramics and everything did fine, but I don't think they were as interesting as the bronze and the sculpture in this sale. Was this very attractive Buddha, Ming Dynasty, Shindi mark, about 19 inches tall, very, very, very similar to the porcelain examples that they made lots of in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. But this is, almost the prototype for those. Beautiful face. I love the face on this guy. If you haven't come over to see it, you got to pull it in and get a good look at him. He's a pretty happy looking Buddha. And it ended up selling for $125,000, which is right in the range they estimated. But as an object, again, I think this was just a terrific thing. I just liked it a lot, okay? And that was it for the sale. If you want to see what the other things brought, of course, you can go to Sotheby's or Christie's, pull up their lists, and mosey on in. And then we're going to take a look at Christie's Chinese jade and carving sale. This was not a spectacularly high-end jade sale. It was sort of, some regular things, lots of pendants, lots of little bits and whatnot. But one of the really choice pieces they had in this, and it was the top lot, I believe, it had to be the top lot of the day, was the Qinlong marriage bowl in this beautiful white jade, sort of a greenish tone to it. But the quality of the jade was just absolutely outstanding. And if you came to the site and took a good look at it, you'd see all this very elegant low relief carving, the beautiful color of the stone. You can flip across over to here. Here's the bottom of it with the bat on top of the peach and all these roux head type cloud devices everywhere. Here's the interior of the bowl. But the finish of this bowl was just really superb, and how the bat handles were done. Okay, just a great example. And it ended up selling for $588,000, about 2/3 above its high estimate. Not a big surprise. I understand the estimate on it because most of these are not of this quality, and they do sell in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, or $100,000 to $150,000 even. All right, and now we're going to move over to this. This is that wonderful catalog for the Linyu Shanren collection, and the sale did quite well. They had a few pieces that didn't sell, but that's the way it goes. But they had overall the better pieces did great in this auction, and Zijiao wares are sort of a laggard in the market because there wasn't a lot known about them prior to the 1920s, because the kiln was discovered then. Where the stuff was being made, it was discovered by well diggers, apparently. And prior to that, these pieces were around, but nobody really knew when they were made. When were all Zijiao pieces made? Lots of them were thought to have been made in the Ming Dynasty. There was a fair bit of confusion about them. And then once this area was discovered, a lot of them came into the market, obviously, because they found so many. And this was one of them. This is, despite its appearance, it's fairly small. It's only about 8 inches tall. A lot of these Zijiao pieces look bigger than they are. And they're really not always that big, okay? And this was 8 inches tall. And it did just fine. It brought $137,500. Just a beautiful example. And then on to this. The next one was I think the highest lot of the sale was this, and it's described as a very rare large Zishao scrifiato jar. When they say very large, they're talking inches, not feet. This thing is 7 inches tall. Okay, and it's beautifully done, very unusual decoration, and these cups are quite rare. Typically, you see vases in compressed jars and so forth, and the decoration on it is outstandingly well done. And it was estimated at 100 to 150,000, and it ended up selling for 175,000. It went over its high estimate. It did just fine. Okay, but this was a very, very nice example, and the whole sale did quite well. So come over and look at it. Check out the prices some more. All right, and then on to this. This was important Chinese works of art at Sotheby's. This happened on the 12th of September. And it was also a very good sale. And we're going to start out with one of the pieces, two of the pieces we looked at prior to the sale, which on the left was the amphora with that very nice iron red decoration. They sometimes refer to these amphora as string vases because of this decoration around the neck. And if you pull it up, you can see the incise decoration of the dragon, or the creature, mythical beast coming out of the waves. You see his tail is partially obscured in a wave, and he's leaping out of it. But beautiful shape. This is one of the known scholars' object forms, obviously, and it had a silver cap on it. And I'm assuming that was a repair at some point in its life, but a beautiful example. And it came out with a fairly reasonable estimate. This was also from the collection of Stephen Junkunc, just so everybody knows, $8,000 to $12,000 estimate, and it did very well. It brought $47,000. And then next on this page is another piece from the same collection. Was this really great peach bloom red decorated brush washer, also from the Junkunc collection. And let me see here, how big was this? These are like 4 inches in diameter. Photographs bigger than the piece. And I thought the estimate on this seemed really reasonable, 30 to 50,000. I thought the color was very nice. And I guess some other people liked it too. It ended up selling for double its high estimate. But a beautiful example, and that's what you expect to see out of the Junkunc collection. Frankly, he didn't have many mistakes. We'll put it that way. And on to this. This was the pair of Kangxi Marken period vases that had been illustrated in the Whitridge catalog. They were also in the Junkunc collection. Just very, very rare, very unusual with these relief dragons on the neck. All right, and they're the pair of vases are about 8 inches tall, and they were estimated at 100 to 150,000, and they sold for $200,000. Okay, again, provenance and rarity, they seem to always to win the day, don't they? Huh? And then on to number 32, page 32. I had talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was one of my favorite things in the sale. Was this Qianlong period, Marken period Guan type vase, just beautifully done, very small. 6 inches in height. They also made these, as you've seen, some of these can be bigger. This was a nice one. All right, the glaze on this was just so nice, the way it swirls around the body and so forth. And it had I thought a very modest estimate. It seemed to me at the time, 60 to 80,000. And it ended up doing extremely well. It went for $423,000, about 5 times its high estimate. Again, when the Junkunc collection things come up, they tend not to overestimate them, because that kind of an estimate really encourages participation. Because with a $60,000 to $80,000 estimate, those of you who don't know, if the estimate is 60 to 80,000, the reserve, the minimum selling price, can't be above 60,000, obviously. So when a thing like this comes up, people who are serious collectors really have a chance at getting a shot at it. Okay, they don't have to fight the reserve all the way up the ladder, so to speak. All right, and then we're going to mosey on over to this. This was the imperial inscribed lozenge-shaped brushpot, Qianlong Famille Rose, Marken period, about 5 inches tall, just a wonderful thing. Also, Junkunc collection, and had a fairly reasonable estimate, $60,000 to $80,000, and it ended up going well beyond that, up to $225,000. But it was inscribed. These inscribed pieces with good provenance, the imperial examples, are always seem to have an active chaser or a group of them after them. Okay. And now we're going to, the tapping you hear is me entering the page numbers. I have a list. All right. This is an interesting thing. This is one of the 2 crabapple cups, or crabapple month cups, that was in the sale. One is from the Junkunc collection, and the other one is from the Landauer collection. All right, and this one on this page, let's see here, sold for $106,000. Okay, pretty well developed, beautifully painted, a lovely thing. I mentioned one of them in the preview last week. I probably should have mentioned that there were actually 2 in case you came over and got confused. Very exceptionally well painted cup, and ended up selling for $106,000. Okay. And then if you flip over here back to the this is really fun, the Junkunc collection. Oops. There we go. They had one as well. All right, nearly almost very similar, not identical, but very, very similar. Same period, same type of cup, and same size. These are, bear in mind, month cups are 2 or 2.5 inches tall. They're really little tiny pieces of porcelain. And this one ended up selling for $68,750. So you've got about almost a $40,000 spread in the price. I'm not sure why. It might have been condition. It might have been wear. It could have been almost anything, because visually they appeared to be extremely similar. Okay, all right, and now on over to this. The Qinlong landscape vase. Now, before we get into the price on this, it ended up, the estimate was $500,000 to $700,000. It was pretty aggressively estimated. I know a little bit about this vase because the fellow that owned it, I know. He lives in Asia, and he had sent me photographs of this prior to the consigning. We were just talking about the pot, and he wanted to share it with me. And here's a picture of the vase photographs that he had done of it, okay? And it's considerably different unfortunately, than this color separation that appeared in the Sotheby's catalog. Here's the Sotheby's photo. Something went wrong with their color separations. I'm only mentioning this so that if you ever see something in a Sotheby's catalog and you want more information, ask for updated photos sometimes, because the photos of how the piece really looked were much prettier in person. Here's one of the consignor had taken, and here's one that came out at Sotheby's, and something went wrong. Okay, and here they are side by side. The image on the left depicts the vase much more accurately as far as color goes. Notice the egg yolk yellow. It's egg yolk color here and here. The Famille Rose is very pink. And then when you come over to the picture that Sotheby's got, and I'm not knocking Sotheby's, they usually do great photography, but on this one they blew it. The yellow is too lemon yellow, too bright. The Famille Rose up here is sort of almost raspberry looking, and it should be pink. Okay, and there were some other things that in the photographs. But at any rate, he shared with me a number. These are photographs that he sent me prior to consigning it. Here's the bottom of it. All right, just a great vase, just a really wonderful vase. And in the end, it did fine. It ended up selling for $471,000, a little under the low estimate. But I think the market decided, and this fellow was smart enough not to push hard on reserves, and he got a perfectly good price for it. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. But so always, if you're serious about buying something, ask for updated photos and make sure the separations are correct. And of course, this kind of money, you want somebody to go down there and look at it and say, "Gee, it's much prettier than the catalog," because it does happen. Years ago, auction houses, when they had a lot of American furniture, used to over edit the photos, and the mahogany always came out looking almost orange at times. They were trying to make it look more attractive. It was a mistake. But at any rate, here we go. Now we're into the Junkunc collection. This was a great auction, a really interesting auction of sculptures. heads and appliques. And we had looked at, prior to the auction, we'd looked at this Apsara. This is a limestone figure, one of the floating deities. And these are very rare. They don't turn up very often. Sometimes you see just a head of one of these, or a hand, or an elbow, or something. This was 23 inches or so in height, and it ended up doing great. It brought $362,000, more than doubled its high estimate, but for a good reason. They don't turn up often, and the piece had, spectacular provenance. Okay. And then we're going to mosey over to this. This was that terrific sarcophagus marble carving from the Tang dynasty, early Tang. There it is. And this was around 20 inches by 25 inches in size, so to speak, without the estimate, without the stand. But just had a great sense of motion to it. The face of the Fu lion, the tail, the way the Ru waves are swirling underneath it. And it did fine. It ended up selling for it sold for $300,000, above its high estimate, and rightfully so. That's a great piece of art. Could you imagine having that in your house? Imagine having any of these in your house. Wouldn't that be fun? And then on to this. This was the main event of the sale. I think this was the most expensive work of art sold anywhere in New York in September. It was the very large limestone figure of a Bodhisattva, Tang Dynasty, $1.5 to $2.5 million estimate. Now this was big. This was bigger than the other two limestone carvings. It was almost 40 inches tall. So it was a foot and change, almost a foot and a half taller than the other two. But the quality of the carving, I think, was also a bit better. All right, as good as the other two were. I'm not knocking the other two, so don't anybody get upset. But the carving on this, I think, was a better quality for a lot of reasons. The detail, I think, was finer, but a great, great, great carving all the way down to the bottom. And the crowd loved it. It went for $4,335,000 and change. Okay, a lot of money, but an absolutely fabulous example. And, it deserved it. It just deserved it. Imagine having that in your house. Wouldn't that be great? Put a nice light on it. Enjoy it. All right. And now on to this. The late Song, early Ming limestone conglomerate Buddha head. This was a big head. It was 16 inches high. But the detail of it was just great. I think on the next page they have a better picture of the side of the head. There it is. Yeah, this. I mean, look at the way the stone presents, the coloration and so forth, and just the expression on the face, the lips, the nose, the eyes, just great stuff. And here it is, and it had a fairly modest estimate, a couple of $100,000, $250,000 for a high estimate. And it blew that away. It went for almost $1 million. It went for $927,000. I'm not at all surprised. If you're a Buddha sculpture collector and you have the money, you feel really compelled to own this. This was the size of a basketball. It was a beautiful thing. Okay, and then on to the last lot was that very interesting and somewhat curious Sung Lacquer Head. At the end of this is the last lot in the catalog. It was lot 18, and just a very unusual, very academic sort of thing of a lacquer head done during the Song dynasty, the Southern Song. Beautiful quality, very hard to make. These are very hard to make, and they're very fragile. There's only 10 or a dozen of them left in the world, I think, at this point. And you can see this one's had a few bumps and bangs along the way, but a real remnant of a very fascinating manner of sculpting that took place back then. And last week we explained how they made them, which was quite complicated. But this one did fine. It ended up selling for $87,500, about 70% above its high estimate. And for a good reason, because you're not going to, whoever collects these isn't going to see another one anytime soon. Okay, they are extremely rare. All right, and that's about it. We're gonna do the videos for the Hong Kong sales pretty soon, and if you haven't subscribed to us yet here on YouTube, please do, and give us a thumbs up, ask a question, leave a comment, and if you haven't joined us over at Bidamount.com yet for the newsletter or the forum, please come over. It's all free. We do it for fun, and check out the listings that we put on there that we find of things and news and as things go along. All right, and have a great week, and we'll see you all on the next video. We do on Friday, of course, and then we'll start working at some time, and when we get a few minutes on the Hong Kong sales coming up. Some good auctions, some great stuff. One particular collection is just amazing. All right, thanks for viewing, and see you all next time. Bye-bye.